everyone, and welcome back to Mental Attire, the Meaning series. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how indulgence is negative tolerance. I'm Cleopatra.
I am Amy.
And I'm Caitlin.
So, I think our topic is really talking about instant versus delayed gratification. And so, when I was doing a little bit of research before this, indulgence was an antonym of like delayed gratification. It was actually a synonym of gratification, but then if you take it to delayed gratification, it would be an antonym. And so I think it's kind of like some things where it doesn't have to be a bad thing if you're indulging in something that is healthy and you've earned it, or you're giving yourself like a reward for doing something or something like that. But when taken to negative extremes, as we see with a lot of things that we're discussing on this on these episodes, it can become dangerous and also not beneficial to you or to your family or to your friends.
I would agree with that. I think that we've become an instant access or just I call it a microwave society. We want everything at our fingertips now. We want to have our indulgences, our lust, our, greed, which those things are, indulgences can, all of it, the negative, side of it. On the healthy side, taking a walk, taking a nap, certain things to kind of reset and quiet ourselves and slow down. I think it's quite the opposite, because I think delayed gratification, if we if we slow down, if we quiet ourselves, that's where the answers are. That's where we can reconnect so that we can kind of collect ourselves, because we just are at such a fast pace. We can't even process or make wise decisions.
Right. I think from a biblical point of view, delayed gratification is often portrayed as it's wise, it's righteous, and it's aligned with spiritual maturity, while instant gratification, especially when it leads to indulging in the flesh or disobedience, it's often associated in the Bible as foolishness or sin. And I immediately think of, and I have the scripture here, it's in Genesis 25 and it's like 29 through 34, but basically the summary of it is Esau selling his birthright. He gave up his birthright for a bowl of soup because he was hungry in that moment. So he sacrificed a long-term blessing for short-term relief. So the Bible calls this actually profane in Hebrews. So I think it's a good point of view perspective from the Bible and a good example.
Yeah.
And that actually happened over and over and over again in the Bible. Siblings, family, clans, villages, tribes, just from masses to just two people, as you mentioned. It just spreads, it infects. It's like it's contagious, and we've got to reset ourselves and redirect ourselves so then we can help others too. Because if we bring people on with us and we're indulging, or we're in instant gratification, then we can harm others.
Yeah. And there's a quote from Jordan Peterson that says, "The successful among us delay gratification. The successful among us bargain with the future." And I think, like, what I've learned is that when you really want something, and it can even be a really good thing, like it doesn't have to mean that what you want is a bad thing. Asking yourself, do I need it right now, or do I actually want it right now? Or is it going to be better when I receive this tomorrow, or a week from now, or a year from now, whatever it would be? And realizing that, like you said, a microwave society, almost everything is at our fingertips to an extent. Like you can almost have anything, do anything at your fingertips, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing in some areas. but then it's just there's no limits or control on it from like the world's side. So like they're not going to stop you from doing this. It has to be self-control. It has to be that restraint, and it has to be the willingness to, like you were saying, Caitlin, delay what you want in this moment or what you think you really need in this moment. And then it's going to be even better when you actually receive that, or so, it's going to be something better too that you might not have even imagined.
Exactly.
And I think something that contributes to this is the separation, division, disconnection among families. We don't have the accountability with each other. We're not holding each other responsible. And if they are, if people, family members are, it may come from hiding one's own unhealthy behaviors, and then you're holding somebody else accountable, but you're being hypocritical. And we all have to look at that. We all have to be aware of it. But family is supposed to be able to hold each other accountable and responsible in wise, godly, healthy ways, you know. And everybody's so separated, everybody's so on their own individualistic or hyper individualistic paths that we've made it so, you know, it's just not possible. And we need to bring that back together. We need to bring family back together. We need to bring people back to connecting with God, their mental and physical health, their family, and so forth, you know. And our brains are pretty much addicted to the instant access beliefs and behaviors. It's programmed, it's trained, it's conditioned. We have become conditioned. So now we need to be conscious and quiet ourselves, slow down, do quiet time. You know, people may think this sounds ridiculous, but living slow, you actually have more in life and you receive more. Living fast, we don't make the wisest, healthiest decisions. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Well, and I think discipline, it doesn't always feel good in the moment, like choosing that discipline, because often it requires waiting and patience, but it produces a long-term fruit. And you know, the core of waiting for a greater reward, and it follows, you know, obedience and patience. There is a greater reward for that. And so Galatians 6:9 says, let us not be weary in our well-doing, because we're going to reap if we don't faint. And so God promises a reward when we choose that discipline, and he promises that reward in due time. It's not always going to be instant. That's God doesn't instantly just rain down like confetti for you when you do something right. But he promises, you know, eternal rewards, even when those results aren't immediate.
I do think, though, if we really pay attention, when we do turn to the wiser, even if it's hard, even if we have messes to clean up, even if there is a lot of dirt and weeds like we talked about in yesterday's episode, that we do instantly start seeing God in our life more. You know, we will see actually rewards. If we actually pay attention, we get so caught up into what we don't have that God's actually starting to shower us when we're making wiser decisions, but we're not even able to focus on that because we're focusing on what we don't have.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's going to be that the rewards might not be exactly what you wanted or what you expected in that moment. So, like, you don't realize it, you know? So then it's easy to think, oh, there hasn't been anything good that's, like, come out of my discipline or my patience or anything. But actually, it might be that in that moment, it's not what you were specifically wanting or anticipating would happen. And that could still happen down the road, or something better is going to happen, you know? But I think another thing is that in the last episode we were talking about taking time for like simple things like playing a game or reading a book or going for a walk or whatever it would be. And it's almost become like, because those could be considered indulgences, but if they're done, you know, in healthy ways, not always reading or always, walking or whatever it would be, then that also has a negative connotation because you're indulging in something that's not like keeping you busy or it's not like fast paced or anything like that. And so then you have to look at it from that standpoint of where that can be a healthy indulgence when you're taking the time to slow down and enjoy those moments, whether it's with your family or yourself or your friends or whatever it is. And so that's another example of how easily misconstrued it can be, because it doesn't mean that all the indulgences, like we said, are bad, but it depends how often or how wise and healthy those, for lack of a better word, indulgences are.
Well, and I think we need to look at the bigger picture. We can't just look at the moment. Go ahead, Caitlin.
No, I was just gonna say I thought of that. Like you sent it in our group chat. 4 Hershey Kisses eventually turns into 42. Like sometimes indulging in that 42 is not good, but the 3 or 4, that's not too bad. But that makes sense.
Taking a walk may be a great thing, but is it in avoiding versus helping?
Right.
Is there something that God's saying, do this first, then take the walk? Or I was going to bring up, and we've talked about it in other episodes, of the world is on the bandwagon of feelings and emotions. Feel your emotions, feel your feelings, act from that. No, 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 no. As we talked about in other ones, Jeremiah, it talks about our heart is misleading. It can be very misleading. We used to use the saying all the time, do one thing every single day that makes your heart sing. Now, we want our hearts to sing, but we also want our bodies and our lives to sing too in healthy ways. So I think the world is promoting this, and it's very dangerous because that's what I used to live. And I used to go off of feelings, and our feelings are the chemicals in our body that comes from our beliefs and our thoughts and everything. And when we don't have control over that, and when they're the school, not on the school of wisdom from God and truth, it's from the school of lies in the world, we're going off the chemicals in our body, and that's very dangerous, the emotions in our body. And that's fleeting, that's harmful, that's destructive, and we can see what it's doing to everybody. So we have to discipline our feelings, discipline our emotions, discipline our body. This is, and discipline our actions, which I admit, I used to live that other way, and I'm working on it. I'm still human, and I still, I'd like to, and we talked about yesterday, the highs and the lows, the goods and the bads. We still have to come to the middle ground. If we're on a high and we're feeling great and we make some decisions that, I shouldn't have made those decisions, then we gotta once again, don't go off of our feelings. We need to express those in a safe environment and work through them, but don't act on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that to go off of that example, that instant gratification could be either the high or the low, and the delayed gratification is in the middle where you're more level-headed, not like high or low on emotions. You have the discipline.
Neutral, balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be kind of a good way to look at it too. And you could even make, like we've recommended, making a note or a sticky note, whatever it is, of like, what are you mentally wearing today? Maybe you can make like a little one and put a line here in the middle that's like delayed gratification or whatever you want to call it, discipline. And then for the 2 higher points, it's instant gratification or lack of self-control, unhealthy indulgences, whatever wording or, that makes the most sense to you or is most easiest for you to like remember in the moment. But that's also a good idea for a reminder too.
Actually, we're going to be getting our blogs put on, Caitlin. That would be something great if we would make it. And like we have the little mini card for what are you mentally wearing today that somebody could print out. We could make one for this too. And people could just print it out and hang it up, put it in your wallet, put it with your phone, hang it anywhere. We use reminders all the time. I carry reminders, I hang them. But that's a really good point of how you describe that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think remembering to like, and just keeping in your mind what may feel right in the moment, it also may lead to destruction. So it's kind of like put in perspective, as especially when based on an impulse rather than God's wisdom. Keep that in the front of your mind. That instant indulgence, especially in temptation, leads to sin. It leads to consequences. So knowing that, you know, these choices may be difficult in the moment, but God's going to bless you for choosing or not choosing impulse. That makes sense.
Mm, yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, and all it takes is pausing for a moment to be like, okay, what is the positive that might come out of this, and what is the negative? And if the positive is stronger or it will outweigh the negative because it's actually a healthy choice, you'll know. If it's not going to outweigh the negative or the unfavorable consequences, you'll also know, and you'll know which obviously choice you should make. And so it's like all it takes is a little pause. I mean, it could be a longer pause, but really, if you're in that moment of trying to decide this, of like wanting the instant gratification, it's like, okay, pause for 1 minute and you'll have your answer of if it's a wise choice or not.
And do say stop if you need to. I used to have a sign, actually, I still have it hanging up at the house. Stop and pause and set a timer and do some breathing. Gay and Katie Hendricks talk about the 10-second miracle breath, and you can repeat that. You breathe in 5, you breathe out 5. You can breathe in 4, you can breathe out 6. There's another method: breathe in 4, hold 7, breathe out 8. But do the breathing, slow down, pause, quiet yourself. Two things from the Bible. There are two women that come to my mind: Shira and Rahab, which we have choose to change. From Joshua, Rahab. These women had to make, and it's not about men, it's about women and men, children, all ages, but they had to make choices to change their lives. They had to choose to change. God gives us everything we need, but we have to do our part. We can pray and pray and pray, but we have to do our part. We have to do the work. We still live here on earth, and that is part of our job, is to have God, God's living in us, our living spirit, but we have to do our part. So, we can't take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, takeaways for today, ladies? One takeaway that you would recommend?
So many. But I would think like delayed gratification. It leads to encouraging you deep down, soul deep. It leads to growth. It leads to righteousness and a reward in due time. And I think too, like just the reward of just knowing you chose what was right, it is something that like no one can take away from you. And so remembering those things, like choosing maybe the longer way around, leads to growth. It leads to that righteousness, and that leads to reward.
Right. Well, and I think that when we're talking about instant versus delayed gratification, it goes back to our topic of happiness and how we think that this instant gratification or getting what we want in the moment is going to make us happy. But it takes us back to the fact that the delayed gratification or the discipline to choose the wise way will be the lasting happiness that we talked about. And you can go back and listen to our other episode because we explain it a lot more deeply. But it's going to be, like you said, that contentedness that you chose the right thing. And it's whether anyone else around you notices or not, you know you did the right thing. And God is going to reward you, whether it's by receiving what you thought you wanted, or it's going to be something better, or it's going to be delayed in the future. And then you'll be like, wow, I did what was right, so I received this however far down the line. And so I think it's a matter of it comes down to the discipline and pausing. I think that was one of our takeaways too, is to pause when you're trying to make that decision. And it could be really simple or it could be a really big decision, just pausing to ask if it's the right thing. And you can even ask, is this the right thing for me right now? Because like it could be a good thing and it might just not be the right time. So I think my big takeaway would be just to pause and ask yourself that.
And I would say do quiet time. We have a video which we're going to be getting on here, links with the videos in the blog, so then people can, things that we refer to, they can actually click in the blog post from this video. We have a video that describes quiet time. Slow down enough, live slow, because you're going to live better, you're going to live healthier, and you're going to live more and receive more in your life. And the last thing I was going to say is we do custom mindset merch, does custom apparel, and we are raising awareness in many different areas. And Cleopatra, I don't know if you could put your deal for Never Alone Ranch, so people could see it. We have multiple different pieces of apparel we create with, and what does it say on there, Cleopatra, for the verse?
It's Isaiah 40:31, and it says, "They will soar on wings like eagles."
And we want no one to do life alone. No person or family shall do life alone. We all need to work together. A verse in Romans we were just said today, we've got to work together here for the better of all, not just for ourselves. We've got to work together for all. We've got to join together, which we have Families United, Never Alone, and Gather Offline. And then Caitlin there has a piece, Mental Attire Movement, that, of course, our mental attire, the meaning series, and what are you mentally wearing today? This goes much deeper than apparel. It's what we wear on the outside, and our behaviors are on the outside, but what's going on inside of us mentally is what comes out in our lives. So we're here to help people mentally and physically, and with their connection with God and with family and their full life. And then I have Choose to Change from Joshua to Rahab. And these are just reminders for all of us and for others. That's what we're trying to do with Mindset Merch and the Mental Awareness Movement. And then we have Unplug to Plug In, step away from technology. Connect with God, connect with those around you, connect with nature. So for today, we appreciate you being here. We are thankful for you, and we look forward to connecting with you. Please do reach out to any of us. And we have resources and connections, and we'd love to get to know you. So anything else, ladies?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, well, you all take care.
Bye.